Hi everybody, my name is Taylor and I'm an educator at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, and today I'm going to be walking you through a really easy art project that you can do at home with just a couple of supplies, and that is texture rubbings. So I already went ahead and made one as a sample. And all you're going to need, the only supplies you're going to need are paper and crayons. So really easy. At the Cathedral, this is a project that we do with family groups, family workshops, and sometimes with school group tours. I'll show you an example that I actually have from the Cathedral, of one that I made at the Cathedral. If you've been to the Cathedral before, you know that we have seals, or something we call the pilgrims pavement, in the floor, in each aisle and in the center of the Cathedral. There are different big round seals that show different pilgrimage sites in the Episcopal Church. And historically in the Middle Ages, when pilgrims, people who were traveling long distances to see a cathedral or some other important something of religious significance, pilgrims who were traveling to a cathedral might have made a rubbing like this of something at the church, at the cathedral they were visiting, and taken it home with them as a souvenir to show that they made this big long journey. And obviously today we're not going to be making a pilgrimage, we're not going to be able to visit the cathedral, but we can make our own texture rubbings at home. Like I mentioned before, there are just a couple of supplies that you need to do a texture rubbing. One is, of course, paper, and the other is a crayon. For my sample, I did a couple of different colors of crayon, and I sort of layered them on top of each other. That's an option that you can do as well. You can start with just one color and add more, as many as you want, or you can just stick to the single color. To get your crayon ready to do a texture rubbing, you're just going to take it and peel off some of the paper so that you have a little bit wider section here that you can actually rub with. I find that it's easier to rub with half of a crayon because I can just hold it a little bit better, but test it out, see what works best for you. Also, I just use regular printer paper with my example, but if you have other types of paper, you can definitely try those out too. Thicker paper, it's going to be a little bit harder for the texture to show through, but if you do have some thinner paper, you can give that a try. I will tell you that if you're going to use a thinner paper like a tissue paper, which I do have here, it's really thin, so you have to be really careful when you're doing the rubbing. I tested it out a little bit on my floor, my hardwood floors, and you can see it actually made a pretty cool pattern, but it did rip a little bit when I was doing it. So if you're doing a texture rubbing with tissue paper or a thinner paper, you want to make sure you're not doing it on something that you don't want to maybe accidentally get crayon on, or make sure that you have a magic eraser or something that will be able to rub it out afterwards. I think that's it for supplies, so let's go ahead and get started. First place we're gonna start to look for some textures used for our rubbing is the kitchen. So I found some cool stuff in here to use. This backsplash that I have in my apartment is really nice, has a really cool texture. So I'll show you exactly how we're gonna do this. All right, so you're gonna just take your paper, put it against whatever it is that you wanna make the rubbing on against, and it helps if you have someone to help you out with this, but you're going to hold the paper down. You want to make sure it doesn't move. You can also tape it down. That's an option. And holding your crayon, you're just going to rub. And if you press harder and rub longer, it'll give you a darker, sharper image of the texture. But you can also just do it more lightly up to you. The bathroom is also a great place to find some things used for texture rubbings. In my bathroom, I have this nice tile with this interesting pattern. So again, just gonna hold it up and do your rubbing. Now, this tile doesn't have quite as much texture. It's more of a pattern. So it's pretty nice to have it overlapping with the last texture that I did in the kitchen. One important thing to note when you're doing texture rubbings is that you want a hard surface. You can test it out on some soft surfaces, but it's not gonna work so well. An example is Rue. My cat Rue. Look, she's got such nice fur, nice texture, but not gonna work very well for a texture rubbing. Finally, I want to challenge you to find some other things around your home that you can use for a rubbing. Maybe it's the floor, maybe it's an item that you have. In my apartment, I found a few different things, like a bowl that has a nice texture. Also, even something like this. This box has a nice pattern going around it. Thank you all for joining me in making texture rubbings today. At the Cathedral, we really missed all of you. We can't wait until we're all back together. But in the meantime, if you made a texture rubbing, please share it with us, tag us in your photos, and we'll see you again soon.